It's August 2014. This is a commentary and Holy Covenant notice. Okay, the notice is to let people know and to let the young mothers know that Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin is on cloud 9. Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin is on cloud 9. Now, cloud 9, most people heard the song if you like maybe in your 40s or 50s or whatever age. You've heard cloud 9. It's a song sung by the Temptations. But, you know, the OJ said there's a message in the music and there's a message in the song. Now, I heard that there's a message in the music, but I was shocked. You know how in the Bible said that our sons and daughters will begin to prophesy and they will see visions? Well, this vision that I saw was more than an actual vision. I was privileged to be shown cloud 9. I was privileged to be taken through my pineal gland to cloud 9. And I was privileged to talk to the people who live on cloud 9. And it was the most amazing thing. And I was like hesitant to tell people this because it is so much cosmic phenomenon. And it's so astounding to understand that there's a cloud 9 and that somehow the spirits from cloud 9 gave forth the music and the inspiration of the songs and the lyrics for the song Cloud 9. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to have a link of the song Cloud 9 of what I'm going to describe to you. Now, Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin is on cloud 9 because we're at the end of the age. Before, there used to be like a holding place that they would go to, but now they go straight through the wings of Psalms 97. They are gathered under the wings, then they are taken straight to cloud 9. Now, the interesting thing is, first, let me tell you that our youth that are being physically demised, which means they're losing their physical function. They're not really dying as we think. They, as far as we're concerned, they're dying. They're losing their physical function on earth as we know it. But if you understand that they are energy and that energy don't dissipate, it recreates in another space and time, as Earth, Wind, and Fire said. Now, the sad thing is, first, I want to be very empathetic towards these women who lost their sons. And I want all women to hear this who lost their sons. Because this is a very tragic thing to lose your child. This is something no mother wants to go through. This is something no woman wants to experience. Out of all the experiences in life, this would be the most heart-wrenching experience any woman or man, father, would have to face the loss of their child in some funky, nasty cop ego and gun. This is an overwhelming, heart-wrenching thing. Now, so I have to let you know that I'm not making light of this. This is, you know, one of them things that changes one's life in cosmic understanding that either you're going to ascend cosmically or it might hold you back, depending on how well you can piece together, you know, your spiritual framework to adapt and to cope with such a tragedy. And it is a tragedy. Anyway, what happened was I had a playmate when I was like 3 or 4. You know, my mother was friends with someone else's mother and they were friends. And so I had a playmate and his name was Vaughn, and Vaughn was shot by a cop when he was 13 years old. You know, we played together at 3 and 4 and he was shot by a cop when he was 13 and he's for so-called stealing a candy bar. So there, you know, and this incident of him and his physical function being lost that tragically and senselessly, every time I hear about another young man being murdered, it's like I experienced that trauma over again of losing my playmate. Because when he was 13 and he was shot and killed by a policeman, I was 13. I was just at the age of my bat mitzvah, and I had to deal with the frailty of life, of the frailty of having someone that was part of your childhood, life being sensibly taken away when you're still at the age of like a bat mitzvah and a bar mitzvah. You know, this is not something that a 13-year-old wants to have or want to have at her age of bat mitzvah. So every time I hear that, it's like it replays over and over again. It brings back that tragedy of losing him, someone I played with when I was almost in a toddler stage or a little older, than to hear his life was senselessly taken like that. So I just want to let mothers know this is not being taken lightly at all. And Judaic blood will be avenged. All their blood will be avenged. Okay? But I want you to also know that they're the body of Christ, and this is the blood of the Lamb. Now, cloud 9, and I discovered cloud 9 because my pineal gland is now raised at a level where sometimes when I go to sleep, I experience an ascension while I'm sleeping. And this is one of the times that I experienced an ascension while I was sleeping. It was like I was sleeping and I was ascending at the same time. So my whole serotonin, my mental and spiritual levels were all like working at once, and they was connecting with the unconscious and the consciousness of the cosmic, and the subconscious was all like coming together, and I was ascending. And so all of a sudden, I find my place, and I've been to Cloud 9 2 or 3 times, and I found myself in an audience, looked like a school auditorium. And all of a sudden, these teenagers come. And these teenagers are sharp. I mean, they like a marching band, but they're sharp. They have on red, white, and blue outfits, but the colors were so electric. It's like a red, white, and blue you never seen. Like their boots was white and it had tassels on it, like red and blue, and their uniforms, either their skirts or their pants was like blue and red. And I mean, they were sharp. And I mean, really sharp. And then they start doing like college stepping. Like you see the college students stepping, but their stepping was like stepping I have never seen before. I mean, it was so precise and so on point and so poignant and so just sharp and so, you know, like, wow, what is this? And then the song Cloud 9, as they marched on the stage, that song Cloud 9 started playing, and my audio clairvoyancy was like out there. I mean, this is an amplified clairvoyancy that I heard the song Cloud 9 in. Now, it sounded like the Temptations was still playing it, was still singing it rather, but there was a marching band, so they had their horns and they had their instruments and they doing the stepping, and this Cloud 9 is playing, and I hear these overwhelming, beautiful sounding instruments, so beautiful in the clairvoyancies of the audio that it was celestial. I mean, it was so celestial and just out there, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, because it just blew my mind, the clairvoyancy of the audio and their uniforms and they're stepping. Now, these were youth. These were youth on Cloud 9, and they invited me, and I was in the audience watching them as they marched down on stage, and they was professing their Cloud 9. It was like, and every time the word Cloud 9 came about, they would say Cloud 9, and it was such sharp precision that it was just mind-blowing, and the visual was so beautiful that, you know, I can't even find the words to describe it. You know, they were all black, by the way, and it was such they had so much confidence. They were so poignant and happy and, you know, at home in what they was doing that I was just astounded. It's like I was sitting in the audience and my mouth was hanging open because I heard this in an audio clairvoyancy like I've never heard this song before. And I've seen them stepping, and I'm like, wow, you know, and they introducing me to Cloud 9. The youth are introducing me to Cloud 9. So then after the concert and after the youth, and there was a whole bunch of youth, they marched on stage. After that, I found myself, somehow I was taken to the living room of a couple, and we was all sitting in the living room, and a little boy was there, 9 or 10 or 8 or 9, and he was talking about his stepfather and his courting his mother, and he was making jokes out of it, and we was all laughing. And then it was like either it was their next door neighbors or another couple who I was in the living room of, and I joked with the husband like, get off your behind and clean this place up. And, you know, then another time I was in the kitchen of a woman who was cooking or frying something, and she was talking to her daughter about her daughter having eyes for this boy, and, you know, she was having that girl talk with her. So, you know, I was like introduced to more than one couple there, and I went to the family place of 2 or 3 people while I was on Cloud 9, 2 or 3 families while I was on Cloud 9, and I saw how they lived, their living room, and they pretty much live like we do on Earth. But one thing about them is that you don't meet no stranger there, because they didn't see me as a stranger, and they act like they knew me in spirit, and they looked like physically they had some kind of spiritual ascendancy or some kind of spiritual revelation or ascendancy or amplification that you don't see here on Earth. So the people on Cloud 9, when they make it to Cloud 9, how they looked when they was in physical function on Earth is returned, but it's returned with like a spirit. It's like the spirit takes supremacy over the physical looks, but you can see the physical looks. You can see how they looked when they function on Earth in the physical body. Now they're on Cloud 9. Somehow, when they get to Cloud 9, they're reseeded or something, or they're born again, and their physical form energy, because that energy, like I told you, it never disappears. It knows how they look, and it returns somehow to them. But this time, it's like you see the spirit and you see the physical, but you don't put the physical above the spirit. And so a lot of our youth, we have to understand, is physical is assaulted while they're still in brain development, like Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. You know, they was like 17 and 18, so their brain still had a few years before it's fully developed. 24 years old, I believe, is the time when the brain actually stops growing and replicating cells. So these were just infants, so they pretty much go straight to cloud 9, and after they go through the torment. And it is the torment of facing your physical demise at 17 and 18. I don't think the average person can comprehend, because even when you live to 70 and 80, that's hard to face. That's hard to face, to feel you losing your breath and your physical function being stopped, and knowing you're getting ready to make a transition. A transition is extremely hard for those who still babies in brain development. They are still babies in brain development, and they have to face losing their physical function, and they have to face something, the unknown, which some of us have 50, 60, 70 years to prepare for, and they have to face this sometime at 13, 14, and 15 years of age. This is a tragedy. I mean, even the adrenaline that rushes to them knows this is a tragedy, that they have to face this flash of their life in front of their face and their demise, because they haven't lived long enough for even full brain development. So after the wings come upon them and take their energy and spirit and, you know, soothe them, then it's okay. But it's that immediate confrontation of facing this, facing the unknown, that is an adrenaline rushing tragedy at such a young age. But I wanted to tell the story of Cloud 9 because, you know, like I said, OJ said there's a message in the music, and I heard that song, and when I heard it, I said, my God, and I hadn't listened to this song in a long time. I wasn't even thinking about it until, you know, I went to Cloud 9, and, you know, they showed me that they were singing their anthem. This is their anthem. You know, Cloud 9, this is the youth anthem, and they feel good about Cloud 9. So I got up from this ascended dream where the visual clairvoyance and audio clairvoyance showed me that this was way more than a dream. This was way more than a dream. This was an actual place where people live. You know, the Bible says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Okay? So these people on Cloud 9 are purified. They're purified, and they don't want the earth contamination right now. They kind of see us as contaminated. They can't even come really and speak to their relatives too much, because, or some of them may try, but they have to go in and out of too much decontamination. They have to go in a decontamination chamber, and if they come out and try to speak to you, they've got to go back to the decontamination, because the will is not done on earth as it is in heaven. See, we will see them merging when thy will is done. We will understand that Cloud 9 exists, and that we have relatives and people on Cloud 9, which also I found out Malcolm X is there. I found out his grandson is there. I found out Betty Shabazz is there. You know, I found out some of my relatives was there, because they went through the trouble of the decontamination chamber to come and let me know. And then they had to go through the trouble again. They had to go in and out of the decontamination chamber. And it's a whole bunch of kind of trouble doing that. But when you want to put forth your message and you got a messenger, some of them will go through that. However, they don't let a lot of the teenagers go through that. These are usually older adults that they let go through the decontamination chamber to communicate with someone like myself. But it is amazing. And Malcolm X did communicate with me. He communicated with me in more than one place. But my last communication with him was from Cloud 9, and him and his grandson is there, and he's back with Mrs. Betty Shabazz, Dr. Betty Shabazz. So this is amazing. This is amazing stuff. But as the realms of the physical and spirit world come together, some of us is going to be put forth to see it and to have a preview of it coming together, and an understanding that these other realms exist. And they live a lot like we do. They have their own apartments, they have their own homes, they have their relationships. They, for the most part, is happy. You know, you have to listen to the song Cloud 9 and the words to the song Cloud 9, and that will tell you how they are on Cloud 9 and how they see their home as Cloud 9. Right now, we're the ones that's left to do the struggling. They are on Cloud 9. Okay, right now we got to clean up this act here on earth, you know, to ascend and merge with them, because they cannot come through a contaminated earth. They are contaminated, they are reborn, they are resurrected, and they like their place in their realm. This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Don't forget to look at the description of Cloud 9, where you have the song and the words to Cloud 9. And this version of Cloud 9 is as closest as I heard it. I heard it, but this is the only one that I saw that even come close to how I heard it. It can never be exact how I heard it because it was too much audio clairvoyance. But this version of it is how it comes close to how I heard it. It's the closest version I heard. But I want you to listen to it, listen to the music and everything, because this takes you to what I kind of heard, and look at the words to this song and really look into this song and then understand this place is real, as is real. Is Israel is real? Israel is real. Cloud9 is real.